Bonjour à tous, bienvenue à la 5e édition des Entrevues Code Vie. Welcome to the Code LiFE Interviews, part 5 of our series of panels marking the Montreal General Hospital's 200th anniversary. Et aujourd'hui, on va parler du rôle de la philanthropie dans l'histoire et aussi pour l'avenir de l'hôpital général de Montréal. Of course, the Montreal General Hospital has counted on the support of the Molson family for 7 generations, spearheading the construction of the first MGH in 1821 and later on creating the hospital's foundation in the 1970s. Most recently, the MGH Foundation launched its most ambitious campaign ever, the Code LiFE campaign, supporting vital care for the entire community. And we actually have some pretty exciting news to share about that campaign a little bit later on. Mais tout d'abord, j'aimerais me tourner vers nos invités aujourd'hui, tous au parcours très différent et exceptionnel, mais avec un but en commun, soutenir la médecine du futur pour tous les Québécois. Alors, our guest today, Andrew Molson, businessman, philanthropist, and co-chair of the Code LiFE campaign. We have Kim Anderson, who is the CEO of the Hewitt Foundation and also part of the Code LiFE campaign cabinet, and Jean-Guy Gourdreau, who is the president and CEO of the Montreal General Hospital Foundation. So thanks for being with us.
Pleasure.
I want to start with you, Andrew Molson, just because we were talking about your family's connection, of course, to the Montreal General Hospital. It's been generations, and you know, you've said your family's history really is tied to the MGH, and you've said before that philanthropy is part of your DNA. So I wanted to ask you how you were first introduced to philanthropy in your youth. I think you have some pretty good stories about that, but how far back does it go for you, and how was it first introduced for you?
Well, in my case, I was first introduced to philanthropy very much through seeing my parents active in the community and getting involved and coming home and talking about some of the things they were doing other than my dad's day job and you know, other activities. So they were sort of a role model for myself and my brothers. And we would listen and observe and hear and as we went along. And I started volunteering, I think, probably in my teens, I would say.
And were you prompted by them, or was your own initiative?
I think it was a combination of things. I wanted to stay. I was doing Boy Scouts and stuff, so I wanted to continue to sort of help out and do something. So I ended up getting a gig as a candy striper at the Royal Victoria Hospital when I was 13, 14.
And you're going to have to tell us what a candy striper is.
Yeah, okay, a candy striper is sort of a volunteer, young volunteer. We wear funny suits. And in my case, I was pushing a cart around and making sure closets were filled with products necessary for servicing the patients.
Okay, so that was your introduction, and did they know who you were at the time?
Maybe. I didn't really think about that very much. I just knew I was Andrew helping out, and I could converse in English and French with the patients and the people working there, and I had a fun time. So it was great. And then, so from there on, I continued to be a volunteer in our community.
Okay. And that, so not just donor, but volunteers, it's been important for you to play the different roles.
Yes, absolutely. I believe that one of the, today we're talking about the role of philanthropy. I think, you know, one of the great things about the role of philanthropy is being involved in your community. So it can be sweat, it can be money, but it's actually being involved and serving. And it's very, very rewarding, and you learn a lot. And you feel good about giving back.
And so, Kim, you're a little bit newer to this world. En fait, on va y aller en français un petit peu. Vous aviez du bénévolat en commun avec Andrew, je pense. Alors, comment est-ce que, pour vous, la philanthropie, comment est-ce que c'est venu à faire partie de votre parcours?
Bien, comme tu dis, moi, je suis comme Andrew. So, j'avais commencé comme bénévole de jeune âge, puis je dirais qu'en tant qu'adulte, ça l'a vraiment ancré il y a 15 ans, 20 ans. J'ai été bénévole longtemps. Et ensuite, en 2017-2018, j'ai été introduit à la vie de philanthropie plus complexe. et ce que ça implique quand M. Hewitt m'a demandé de mettre sur pied la Fondation puis les piliers stratégiques. Le mot philanthropie, actually, by definition, means love of mankind. And to give back is a core value. Puis pour moi, c'est ce que la philanthropie démontre. Et I'm humbled by being a part of it. And then I was asked to join the board of the MGH Foundation. So, un autre côté de la philanthropie, of giving back. Puis pour moi, ça vient... à tous les jours, je suis surprise de l'impact de la philanthropie et qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire, comme Andrew il dit, sweat, giving back. C'est vraiment pour ça, pour moi, le rôle de la philanthropie et j'adore faire partie de ça, and I hope I give it and justice in the role that I play.
And again, you said I mentioned that you started with volunteering, right? You were a volunteer for 12 years, I think.
Yeah, at West Island mission, so food banks, giving back, going out in the West Island to give to those less fortunate. So I think for me, that's the idea of philanthropy. I'm lucky. I am lucky that I'm healthy. I am lucky that I had parents who love me. I love that I had I'm lucky I was with a roof over my head. And so if I can give back in any way, shape, or form, I think that's the easiest way to give back to someone and pay it forward. So to be able to do that every day, there's no better feeling than being able to do that all the time.
And so, Jean-Guy Gourdeau, you called upon both Kim and Andrew when it was time to launch this the Code LiFE campaign in 2018. They were both instrumental in planning the campaign and in being part of its success. So, why create the campaign? What were you up against at the time? What were you looking at that you thought we have to do? We have to have this major campaign.
Well, there were three major things that were driving, what we were facing in 2018. One, from a contextual point of view, there was the modernization or the establishment of the Glen site, where a lot of the NUHC hospitals actually moved there. There was also change in the in some of the specializations with healthcare reforms and Bill 10. So it created quite a lot of donor confusion. It created an importance on our part to build awareness as to the importance of the programs that are at the Montreal General and the impact that they have provincially. So we felt a strong need that people needed to understand what we do in trauma and how we served, over 2 million Quebecers in trauma across, a vast territory of the province. Same thing with our surgical oncology program, where we have referring patients from over 40 hospitals from Gaspé to Gatineau come for surgical care for cancer issues. Same with our mental health programs and our neurology programs. So there was so much awareness building that needed to be made, and we felt a campaign was a great vehicle for that. And then it was creating a sense of urgency, and I think that's where we felt you walk around a hospital and you often hear sometimes a code red or a code blue or a code white, and it's a way of calling out to the medical teams, the professional medical teams that there's an urgent situation at hand that needs to be addressed. And we felt it was a great way to use Code LiFE as a call out to the community to say, we need your vital support for vital care.
And talking about having an impact beyond the hospital's walls, how important was it for you for people to realize that this was, that what you do at the MGH and the money that's donated to the foundation was going to help the community at large, well beyond the walls of the hospital?
Yeah, it was a fundamental part of even the success we achieved with the campaign. I think that's what resonated when people and donors got to appreciate how many people are impacted, not just locally on the island of Montreal, but regionally through our trauma program, our lung cancer program. that's when people started saying, wow, this is important to protect and important to support. So it definitely resonated strongly with our supporters.
So it did indeed, and I was talking about at the beginning a little bit of news that is out today about the success of the campaign. So that news is that the Code LiFE campaign has actually surpassed its goal of raising $100 million by $10 million. So les 110 millions seront investis pour soutenir les équipes médicales autour de 5 grands termes. On parlait de la traumatologie, les traitements personnalisés pour le cancer, l'innovation clinique, la santé du cerveau et le bien vieillir. Et l'impact, comme on le disait, va se faire sentir bien au-delà des murs de l'hôpital général de Montréal, puisque plus de 40 hôpitaux de première ligne y réfèrent des patients. Alors, on va vous présenter une petite vidéo qui recapping a little bit the campaign's success. So, Jean-Guy, you were saying, we're talking about achieving 110 million in 3 years, obviously a huge accomplishment, especially when you consider COVID, no in-person events, none of those opportunities, of holding events gone essentially. So what do you think contributed to the success of the campaign? How did that work?
Well, there were a couple of factors. I think we had a fantastic campaign cabinet, so really our deepest gratitude for their degree of engagement and spreading the word. I mean, they've got phenomenal networks and they're unbelievable leaders. So they were unbelievable advocates of the programs that we had and were able to really communicate effectively as to the importance of stepping up and investing in the campaign. COVID made the general public really realize the importance of the healthcare network. Nobody likes to be shut down and isolated, and so you really saw people saying, "Wow, what can I do to help?" And we were able to mobilize a lot of people. We launched a Code LiFE Ventilator Challenge, where we invited respirologists, engineers from across the world to come up with a low-cost ventilator, where now the models are able to be shared across the world. Even protective equipment. There was a big fear that we'd run out of protective equipment, and we had our infection control people work with our trauma people, come up with even things like converting a scuba mask. So you had full visual protection and respirology protection, and having it fully reusable. So a whole range of initiatives were developed in terms of being extremely responsive. And then we went virtual. I think continuing to spread the word, we took our in-person events, made them virtual events. For example, our Hockey 911 event, where we take the great medical leadership that have been taking care of our beloved Montreal Canadiens for over 100 years. We had an initial in-person event, but our following two events were virtual events, and actually we were able to get participants from across the country to participate in the event. So we had to be adaptive and flexible.
And in a way, you can reach new people with virtual events too, right? There's an advantage there. I wanted to ask you, Andrew, about being involved, throughout the campaign. We've talked a lot about innovation in these Code LiFE interviews. What are some of the projects that you're most excited about that are happening at the MGH, and things that you want to see come to fruition, and that you're excited about having others invest in and investing in?
I would say what I very very much appreciate are all of the initiatives that improve the before and the after for patients. So getting ready for actually having the operation, and then post-operation. So all of the advancements that places like the MGH are doing to make it better, more efficient, less burdensome on the body, I find very, very interesting. And to watch these initiatives go out to the 40 hospitals and be best practices for all of our hospitals in Quebec is great to see.
Puis aussi, on parlait de donateurs. Quand vous approchez d'autres donateurs, est-ce que eux aussi ont certaines initiatives qu'ils ont en tête, ou est-ce que il y a aussi une partie de votre travail aussi, c'est essayer de trouver un bon match pour eux, un bon partenariat pour eux?
C'est une très bonne question, et franchement, ça varie. Ça dépend souvent du niveau de connaissance du donateur potentiel. Des fois, ils connaissent beaucoup qu'est-ce qui se passe dans le système de santé. Des fois, ils ont une situation personnelle ou dans la famille, et ils veulent adresser cette situation personnelle. Alors, il faut, et c'est Jean-Guy et ses collègues qui sont des experts là-dedans, il faut un peu gérer tout ça. Et la beauté de la philanthropie, c'est qu'il y a beaucoup de différentes options pour donner. Et il y a beaucoup de causes. Et il y a beaucoup de belles initiatives. Ouais.
En autant qu'elle soit porteuse, un peu, c'est important pour vous, c'est ça, parce qu'il y a l'historique familial avec l'hôpital, mais aussi quand on voit l'impact que ça a avec, en fait, bien au-delà dans toute la communauté. J'imagine que c'est de plus en plus important pour les donateurs aussi.
Oui, nous, notre philosophie que nous, on applique, notre famille qu'on applique à la philanthropie, c'est très similaire à ce qu'on applique dans nos investissements, dans un sens. On veut être là pour le long terme, on veut être connaissant, et on veut être engagé dans ce qu'on fait. Et on l'applique quand on fait des dons aussi. On veut participer, et participer de façon active. Mais il y a d'autres fondations, d'autres familles, des fois, ils veulent juste donner, puis c'est bien comme ça. Ça varie.
C'est correct. Il faut un peu de tout. Et Kim, je me demandais, est-ce qu'il y a des situations où vous avez vraiment comme vu l'impact de vos contributions? On parlait un petit peu de ça en pré-entrevue, mais où est-ce que vous avez vu l'impact de la contribution de la Fondation, puis ça vous a fait chaud au cœur, où on voit, c'est pour ça qu'on fait ça, puis ça, c'est ce qui me motive à continuer aussi?
Oui, bien, c'est un peu difficile vu qu'on est un peu plus récente que la Fondation de Molson, mais moi, je te dirais que, tu sais, à chaque fois qu'on donne de l'argent ou je lis un rapport annuel, je peux pleurer tout le temps parce qu'il y a plein d'histoires qui sont tellement belles en philanthropie, puis c'est l'objectif d'améliorer la vie des autres. Comme Jean-Guy le mentionnait avant, on avait été là pour, durant COVID, étant nouvelle, on pouvait être réactionnaire et aidé dans la recherche, puis on avait aidé dans les masques de plongée. Donc vraiment, c'était un besoin immédiat qu'on pouvait aider sur le champ et dire, pour aider du côté des frontline workers, parce que tu voyais vraiment the relief that they saw when you could take off the mask. Tu sais, au début, on savait, you couldn't touch your face, tu pouvais rien faire, puis ils étaient tellement fatigués. Donc, avoir cette option quand il n'y avait plus d'équipement disponible parce qu'on s'en allait en pénurie, nous autres, bien, pour moi, personnellement, ça avait vraiment fait un impact de dire, well, this really helped them here and now, and that's how we could help immediately. And in the research, bien, ça l'avait aidé vraiment à démontrer les étapes qu'il fallait enlever pour COVID. So there's different things, and sometimes you won't see the impact. You know, we help a lot of organizations en maladie mentale, so comme au hôpital général de Montréal. So tu verras pas l'impact nécessairement immédiat, mais on le sait, ça s'en vient. So
and that was kind of an interesting point that you were making too, that, you know, philanthropy allows you to invest in the long term, right? Whereas sometimes in hospitals, as we know, it's crisis mode, it's putting out fires in the moment, but you can contribute to the long-term vision by donating, right? Whether it be your time or, you know, funds or whatever it is.
That's really the advantage for philanthropy. You have the opportunity and to do things on the 3-year, 5-year, long term to help them and see how it can change and pivot and how it can move forward. So that is really how philanthropy comes to help different programming and do that. So.
And you're also mentioning, which I thought was interesting, that there is a risk involved, and it's being able to take that risk for something that might work out or might not, but that's also the beauty of it as well.
Well, if I can, I'll speak for Mr. Hewitt, but I also think that the Molsons were entrepreneurs, so c'est l'idée de, tu vas être en mesure de redonner et de voir des choses d'une façon risque, mais de redonner à la communauté pour ce côté-là, de côté entrepreneur, c'est innovateur. Tu sais, les 3 valeurs, nous, c'est attentionner, innovation et collaboration. Donc, ça vient vraiment chercher ce côté de you care about the other person, you want to be innovative. How do you change the status quo? And how do you collaborate? C'est pas juste nous et c'est pas juste eux, c'est tout le monde ensemble. So how do you collaborate together and make it come and change what is?
And Andrew, going back to you, on dit souvent que la culture de la philanthropie, c'est un petit peu plus nouveau au Québec et que c'est en développement, c'est en train de se développer. Quel changement est-ce que vous avez vu au cours des dernières années? Est-ce que vous voyez aussi une accélération? Est-ce qu'on devient, est-ce qu'on s'améliore? Puis est-ce qu'on développe aussi un type de philanthropie qui est plus unique au Québec? Je me demande.
I think that philanthropy has progressed immensely. I started being sort of active at our family foundation probably around 2005, 2006. And since then, I've seen a lot of, I would say, continuous improvement. Et c'est très rafraîchissant de voir. De plus en plus, on voit du côté, si on va parler des deux solitudes un petit peu, du côté francophone, on voit de très belles fondations francophones qui se sont établies, qui sont en train de redonner. On se parle beaucoup plus qu'avant. Kim parlait de collaboration. On voit beaucoup de collaboration entre les fondations qui donnent vis-à-vis où donner, etc. On se parle. Et je trouve que cette façon de faire, ça augure bien pour nos communautés au Québec.
En fait, je pense que c'est de plus en plus, j'imagine que les donateurs exigent, on ne veut plus voir de silos, là, ça devient comme un prérequis, là, si je ne me trompe pas, que différents partenaires se parlent aussi. Là.
Oui, je pense que c'est ça. On veut s'assurer qu'il y a un impact, puis que ce n'est pas nécessairement une compétition pour aller chercher les sous, mais c'est plutôt l'impact que cette fondation hospitalière ou cette fondation universitaire peut avoir vis-à-vis de l'institution qu'elle soutient. Et l'importance pour cette fondation hospitalière ou universitaire de redonner pour être un genre de catalyseur pour l'excellence dans ces institutions. On sait que nos institutions hospitalières et nos universités sont supportées massivement par nos gouvernements. Qu'est-ce que les fondations peuvent faire pour rendre ça encore meilleur? Et c'est ça qu'on fait comme fondation privée.
Puis Jean-Guy, pour vous, est-ce que c'est ça un des plus grands défis là, en philanthropie, un peu de démystifier ce que font les fondations versus le gouvernement, la responsabilité de l'un ou de l'autre? Pour vous, c'est quoi un des grands défis auxquels vous faites face?
Bien, ça, c'est définitivement un des défis importants. D'abord, comme qui a été décrit, c'est vraiment bâtir sur la confiance, être capable d'avoir des projets très porteurs, des projets qui, on est capable de démontrer, peut avoir un impact important, qui rayonne à travers la province. Comme ça, on peut vraiment voir si ça fonctionne, parfait, on le partage, on s'assure que tout le monde peut en bénéficier. Si ça ne fonctionne pas, mais là, il y a la transparence, il y a l'apprentissage, le risque assumé par les donateurs, mais au moins, il y a toujours un engagement en termes de tout le monde dans la communauté qui comprennent l'importance de ces investissements-là, puis l'engagement, parce que c'est sûr que le réseau de la santé, c'est beaucoup le ministre de la Santé qui assure un niveau de soins de base, mais pour évoluer des changements importants, ça exige vraiment une implication de tout le monde pour être sûr que les nouvelles idées, les nouvelles initiatives sont bien vérifiées, bien testées, puis comme ça, on peut vraiment avoir un impact à la grandeur de la province, si pas plus.
OK. Je vais prendre quelques questions de personnes qui nous écoutent. A few viewer questions. One of them being, and this I guess is for anyone to take, but how can individuals who don't have necessarily the means, we talked a little bit about volunteering, so I'm going to put that on the table, but how can people who don't have huge means contribute to certain initiatives that they might care about? Or how can they get
Well, I think everyone needs to be engaged and involved in the healthcare system and contributing. So whether it is as a grateful patient, telling others of the great care that you got, whether it's volunteering in terms of as a candy striper or just seeing patients, sometimes there's benefit or opportunities to do that, attending events. Those are all important. Everybody needs to, be personally invested in the evolution of our system. So it's not just purely the large private foundation. It really involves mobilizing everyone. So that way, when successful ideas do succeed, then people take notice. And people say, yeah, we do have to scale it up and make sure that it is rolled out at broad scale provincially. Yeah.
And do you have, what's your take on that in terms of how people can contribute? Is that, we think of volunteering, but there's other, you talked about, Andrew, sweat equity.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us have networks and that we could be putting to better use, perhaps?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that there are a lot of different ways you can contribute to a cause. And when I say sweat equity, it is you can bring your talent to the cause, and your talent might not be money. Your talent might be you're really good at marketing, and you'd like to help with the marketing. You're a really good lawyer, and you'd like to maybe help with so there's a lot of different things that you can do as a volunteer, and it helps the organizations because they try. I mean, the hospital foundations, they try and be lean and mean. They're trying to run things efficiently because that's what the donors expect. So you need volunteers that will contribute more than just money.
Mm-hmm. And going back to you're making me think of going back to agility, and during COVID, there's so many examples during COVID, but do you have any other examples of being able to be very agile when maybe the hospital, you think of the healthcare system as a huge ship that needs to stay the course, but with the foundation, you have that benefit of agility, right?
Yeah, and I mean, a good example is a simple thing. The employees were burnt out. I mean, it was exhausting and continues to be exhausting. And so we had initiative like team supporting teams, where we had immense community support, giving gift in kind. And we made sure that people in the hospital were able to come around and get their kind of gift of gratitude from people in the community. We had Montreal Canadian hockey players like Brendan Gallagher and Nick Suzuki, offer dinners for everyone in the hospital. And so I think being able to quickly mobilize on important things like just the fact that people needed a break and some support.
Puis il faut quelqu'un pour orchestrer tout ça, puis c'est pas les employés de l'hôpital qui peuvent le faire souvent là, dans ces cas-là.
Puis souvent aussi, Jean-Guy, toi tu peux en parler plus que moi, mais c'est une situation où tu arrives comme un genre de catalyseur de situation. Il y a un projet, il y a un médecin et son équipe qui veut vraiment faire quelque chose de spécifique, mais c'est difficile de ficeler tout, budget de recherche, budget de gouvernement, tout ça. Mais une fondation peut vraiment arriver avec des moyens pour pousser, pour faire en sorte que ça se passe, avec les risques, mais que c'est très entrepreneurial.
Et puis, est-ce que vous, parlant d'entrepreneuriat, puis on en a parlé un petit peu, mais j'imagine aussi que vous voulez voir, est-ce que vous comme entrepreneur, vous voulez voir plus de interdisciplinarity, où on a des partenariats justement avec les forces qu'on a à Montréal, comme l'intelligence artificielle. Est-ce que vous voulez voir plus de ça, plus de collaboration, de comment on prend une idée, puis on l'amène au marché, exemple, puisque ça, c'est quelque chose qui se passe dans nos hôpitaux, qu'on n'a pas toujours conscience aussi, là.
You like to see that work. You expect it often not to work, but at least you're trying to make it work and you're pushing it. And when it does work, it's glorious. And when it doesn't work, well, you pick up your socks and keep on trying and you do some more. But certainly finding compatibility between disciplines and best practices from different disciplines that you can bring to the other discipline, breaking down the silos, it's essential, and it is very rewarding for our communities if you can make that happen.
And I mean, just to build on that, I mean, there's a lot of examples where we do support our teams to work in collaboration with our partners. So you take our trauma department, where to make important trauma evolution in the province, it involves them working closely with Sacré-Cœur and Enfant Jésus and across the province. So, they're supported and encouraged to do that. Same thing with our, surgical oncology, thoracic program. They work through the McGill Ruiz and all these, over 40 referring hospitals in terms of improving the pathway for the patients that suffer from a lung cancer, stomach cancer, or esophagus cancer.
And you think of initiatives like Dr. Fried's, who his minimally invasive surgery became the norm, right? Like, you're investing sometimes in initiatives that will become, forget about just Quebec, but well beyond. Il va avoir un rayonnement national ou international, finalement. Là. Ça, c'est le rêve aussi. C'est pas comme on dit, c'est pas toujours comme ça, mais souvent, c'est dans ça qu'on investit. Là. Kim, j'avais une question pour vous. On nous demande comment est-ce qu'on peut, parce qu'en étant partie d'une plus jeune fondation aussi, comment est-ce qu'on peut... How would you, je vais vous la lire en français. Comment est-ce qu'on peut encourager de plus jeunes générations à s'impliquer dans la philanthropie? Qu'est-ce que vous pensez qui est la clé? Des fois, on ne pense pas que c'est nécessairement... est-ce qu'on voit de plus en plus de jeunes qui s'impliquent? Puis comment les motiver?
Je pense qu'une des choses qu'on fait avec la Fondation, on a les ambassadeurs. So that there's one way to do that. So tu t'impliques de cette façon-là. Tu as une cause que tu aimes. Tu trouves quelque chose qui t'appartient, that why does this cause hit me more than this one? And, it's also a great way to network. I get as much as I give. You get to meet as many good people, as Andrew mentioned, experts in their field that are sitting at a table and that you get to learn from and get knowledge from, and it's all for a common good. So to be implicated and to participate as an ambassador is a great way to do it. And I think that that's just a great way to start. And you at the beginning of your career, if you're in your 20s or your 30s, it's a great way to meet great people and network. So moi, je pense que c'est une très bonne façon de participer, surtout à la Fondation. Ils font plein de bonnes choses avec, que ce soit, là, on sait c'est des événements, là, mais que ce soit d'autres choses. Il y a plein de façons de s'impliquer de cette façon-là, même si c'est pas les dons d'une fondation qu'on peut donner d'une fondation philanthropique, c'est pas l'objectif. Comme Jean-Guy l'a dit, every dollar matters. So, tu veux organiser, tu sais, les ambassadeurs font les marches. Ils font les événements, like they go for the walks, they encourage their friends to come. So even if you do, we have, monthly donors for $10 a month. C'est ça l'objectif, that ça va tout dans la même direction. So it doesn't matter what you can give at that point. Tu t'impliques and you give back. So moi, je pense que c'est une bonne façon de le faire and to get as much as you give.
And it starts early. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
It starts early. I mean, schools get the kids to get involved and to get involved in different things. Employers encourage their employees to get involved, and so I think that it takes a village, and I think that that's how you do it.
But that's interesting that it's not just a personal initiative, but it has to come from the employers and the schools and to be thinking about their communities, their wider communities as well. And it was interesting, Kim, what you were saying too, in the sense that I think, our last episode was about mental health, and there's been so much it's one of the missions at the MGH, and there's been so much awareness raised about mental health and just taking care of oneself. And I think probably for a lot of younger people that's going to be speaking to them as well as we move forward. I have another question. Are there programs, perhaps for Jean-Guy, are there programs that you can think of that may not have happened were it not for philanthropy? Anything specific? Pick one.
Where to start?
or a couple.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, our lung cancer program is a great example where it started with the support of Philanthropy, where the patient outcomes were very difficult for patients with lung cancer, and therefore there was the idea of, if you can improve the access to a quick test, a rapid investigation clinic, centralize the ability to have these patients come for surgical testing as soon as possible, we greatly impact the patient outcomes. And that led the ministry recognizing the impact on patient outcomes and saying, yeah, we should centralize as much as we can. And that allowed us to keep building on that expertise. And now we have a living biobank where on one floor we do the surgeries of the cancer tumors, and then on 2 floors above we're able to do the research on those cancer tumors and see how they best react to a variety of chemo treatments to find what is the best cocktail of medication that could improve or treat that cancer, and so that's a big part of our move in precision cancer care, where you can't do that unless you centralize all those patient volumes and have access to those live tumors. I mean, it is literally a living biobank.
Puis ça, c'est un impact sur tous les Québécois aussi. Là, ça, c'est un exemple.
Un exemple. Tu sais, l'établissement du réseau de traumatologie qui était parti par Dr. Mulder dans les années 90. Dans le temps, avant qu'on n'avait pas un réseau de traumato au Québec, le taux de mortalité était au-delà de 50%. Mais en développant un réseau de traumatologie, chez nous, le taux de mortalité est en bas de 5%.
Puis desservir jusqu'en Montérégie, jusqu'à dans le Grand Nord.
C'est ça, les frontières de l'Ontario, frontières des États-Unis, jusqu'à l'autoroute la 40, puis aussi le Grand Nord. Au-delà de 2 millions de Québécois en bénéficient énormément. Ça, c'est juste 2 exemples, puis on pourrait être ici toute la soirée. Il y en a beaucoup, là.
Ouais. Speaking of which, if you have any, I'm looking to you, Andrew and Kim, with any, final words to perhaps encourage people, why in your mind, moving forward, is it more important now than ever to give? I'm guessing that your involvement is going to continue. Is there an urgency in your mind, or do you see it more, this is a long-term investment that is going to become more and more important?
Personally, I just think it's a continued responsibility to be part of your community where you live, and to always think about giving back. As Kim pointed out, we're very lucky, we're very fortunate to live where we are, and we can make it better as we celebrate our luckiness, and so to me it's a responsibility. And that's the way I look at it.
Thank you.
I echo his sentiment. I think it's a responsibility, and it's to give back and be lucky and to keep helping the community that you live in is important.
Yeah, and I think after what we've all gone through, a lot of people are feeling a little bit more lucky, and maybe in that frame of mind as well. So I want to thank you all. Merci beaucoup à vous, à nos invités. Merci d'avoir été aussi avec nous. If you wish to contribute to one of the Montreal General Hospital's missions or many initiatives that we discussed today, you can donate to the Montreal General Hospital Foundation through codelife.ca. And for more on the hospital's extraordinary history, the evolution of care to cutting-edge initiatives, you can also visit the virtual exhibition at mgh200.com. And next month, on va parler de traumatologie. We're going to be looking at the trauma center at the MGH, so how it's pioneering care, having spent some time with the team there. There's some pretty amazing work that's being done by some pretty amazing people there. So we're going to, and from the moment that someone arrives there, and even before, as soon as the call comes in, to all the way to the rehabilitation process. So it's going to be really interesting, and we will see you for that in March. Thank you and have a good night.